to order the first meeting for April 2021 of the Pike County Fiscal Court. I would like to ask William Spears if he would say the invocation for us. William, if you would come up to the podium.
Let us pray. Father, we come to you this evening seeking your guidance in the decisions made here tonight. Lord, we pray that you'd guide this court and the decision be made according to your will for the betterment of this county and for the citizens therein. Lord, we ask it all in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. And at this time, I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Judge Jones.
Present.
Commissioner Robertson.
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Here.
Commissioner Booth.
Here.
We have a quorum and we are ready to proceed. I would like to ask Mr. Rick Green, who is Chief of the Big Creek Fire Department, if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the Pike County Fiscal Court for March 16, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
A motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tackett. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson.
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Next item is acknowledgement of receipt of the 2021 Pike County Jail Policy and Procedures Manual. Mr. Morris, Brian Morris, our jailer, could not be here tonight. He has a scheduling conflict. The Policy and Procedures Manual is being amended to include post orders, which is Section 14 post orders. Is there a motion to acknowledge and adopt the amendment to the Policies and Procedures Manual of the Pike County Detention Center? A motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tackett. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson.
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. We're going to skip over. I'm going to skip around just a little bit to try to take care of some of the shorter items on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is acknowledgement of the receipt of the audit of the Pike County Fiscal Court for year ended June 30th, 2020. And I want to first of all say that we appreciate our county treasurer and his staff, Frankie Stacy. This budget was a clean budget from the fiscal court's perspective. There were no adverse findings. There were no negative comments, I think would be the correct term to use on that, Frankie. And this is a tremendous turnaround from the situation that the fiscal court was in when this court assumed office. Two bad audits in a row. The county lost its credit rating. And it has been a remarkable turnaround. It's been a team effort. And Frankie, again, we want to thank you for your hard work on this. Would you like to address this, Frankie, and just explain what this means to the public before we act on it?
I would just want to say, Judge, a lot of grants and a lot of federal money, compliance and things like that all hinge on how well you do on your audits. You know, if there's findings and material weaknesses in your internal control and things like that, then your chances of getting more federal funding, your chances of getting a lot of funding, you kind of just drop down to the bottom of the list. So to have a clean audit is like one of the first things that you need to have to get a lot of federal money.
We appreciate the work that you put in on this, and it is again, a significant turnaround. One of the adverse problems that we do have from losing the credit rating is our ability to bond, and we're going to be talking about the landfill expansion here in a moment. The landfill expansion, our funding sources are going to be somewhat limited because we lost our credit rating.
Right.
And that's something that should never have been allowed to happen. It was poor financial oversight, poor management. We can't put spilled milk back in the jug, so to speak. But we do think that we have made a significant financial turnaround, and we have improved transparency and accountability in the county government to the point it had not been in quite some time. So again, Frankie, thank you and your staff. And I want to thank all the employees of the fiscal court who played a role in making sure that we were able to right the county's finances. So with that being said, is there a motion to acknowledge receipt of the audit of the Pike County Fiscal Court for the year ended June 30th, 2020?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. The next item is a short item. It's approval to execute an engagement agreement with Middleton Reitlinger to represent the Pike County Fiscal Court in connection with searching and possibly seeking to register certain trademarks for the Pike County ATV trail system and authorization for a check in the amount of $500 for a retainer agreement. Mr. Downey, you have reviewed the agreement, is that correct?
Yes, Judge.
And it's in order. And is there a motion to approve the execution of the engagement letter with Milton Reitlinger and authorization for a check for the retainer in the amount of $500?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Next item is the authorization to execute the Project Partnership Agreement, the PPA, with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the Pike Lavasa 202 floodproofing project. This is something we've talked about quite a bit. County Attorney Kevin Keene, Assistant County Attorney Roy Downey have reviewed this agreement. This is the agreement that we have to have in place prior to moving forward with the Coal Run flood wall and the other flood proofing on the Lavasa Fort. This project could have a significant financial impact on the county. The flood wall alone is about a $120 million construction project that will be a federally funded project that would provide wages covered by the Davis-Bacon Act, which is for federal prevailing wage law. These will be substantial construction jobs in an area that's in need of employment. So, Mr. Keene, have you reviewed the agreement and you find it in order? Mr. Downey, you've also reviewed it?
Yes, Judge, and the only thing I think we need to substitute Kevin's name in. And I believe that we need to correct your name as Ray Jones, not Ray Jones. Those are such minor things that we just.
Okay. So other than those two agreements, other than those two, we're good. All right. So is there a motion to approve the execution of the Project Partnership Agreement between the United States Army Corps of Engineers and the Pike County Fiscal Court related to the flood proofing in the Lavasa Fort Basin? Would there be a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett.
Yes.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Next item is the adoption of a resolution in support of the 2021-2022 Kentucky Recycling Grant and authorization for the judge executive to execute all related documents. Ms. Hall, where are you? You come on up, please. I assume this is the same recycling grant program that we did last year. And what is the, you can go ahead and turn your microphone on.
Yeah, it's the same program we participate in.
Would you turn that on, please, the microphone? Is the green light on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit better.
Okay.
So this grant is for the sum of $116,710. Now, are we still the managing agency or the, I guess, the managing applicant? Because this is the one that we do for other counties in the ad district, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, the $116,710, that would be for a pro-tilt open-top trailer with a 20 cubic yard hydraulic dump for $13,200 and a max pack model horizontal full eject baler. There's some other ones in here as well. What part of this equipment that's being purchased through the grant would be coming to Pike County, if any?
Oh, okay, the baler and the tilt-top trailer, open top.
Okay.
That's what they haul newspaper in. Chris Anderson had contacted me and said it was starting to, it was in bad shape. We needed one. Now, the baler, we had bought a belt for it with grant money 2-3 years ago, but it's pretty well shot now. So hopefully we can get the money for that. Last year, the city of Prestonsburg got a baler. They always participate, McGoffin County, City of Prestonsburg. This year, it's going to be McGoffin County and Pike County together on the Big Sandy Regional Recycling.
Okay. So is there a motion to authorize the grant application and approve and to approve the execution of all related documents?
Motion.
A motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tackett. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes, Sharon, before you go, one quick matter. I received an email from Eric Ratliff in your office, in the grant office, that there's a CDBG application that has to be closed out before we can be eligible to submit another one.
Yes.
And that's on the Lookout facility.
Yes, on West Care.
Explain to me what the holdup in closing that is.
Actually, the holdup is it's not West Care, it's not us. We're going to do our public hearing next week to close it out. It's the CDBG office in Frankfurt says that they have to come and go through the files, like do their audit and monitor it, and they say they're not allowed to travel yet. But we're
Can we
ready.
take the file to them?
That's what I was thinking.
Well, can you reach out to them, and I'll reach out to General Counsel for the Department of Local Government, either at break or,
It'll prevent us, it prevents the city of Pikeville because of their broadband building project that's been occupied for a year, but they've not come out in a year, so they're not doing their monitoring, and so they say that there's nothing we can do, but I hope there is.
okay, okay. I'll reach out to the General Counsel and see if we can't get that expedited, find some solution.
Okay.
Next item is adoption of resolution in support of a Homeland Security grant for portable radios for the Pike County Fire Departments and authorization for the judge executive to execute all related documents. Doug, we've dealt with this before. I think we applied for this grant previously and were turned down. Is this the same grant? And this is the grant that money we need to modernize our repeater system and replace the aging handhelds for our fire departments, rescue squads, et cetera. Is that correct? So is there a motion to adopt the resolution and approve execution of all related documents?
Motion.
Related to this Homeland Security grant for portable radios for the fire departments. We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is that correct?
Yes.
Second
Second.
by Commissioner Tackett. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. The next item is authorization for orders of affiliation for Shelby Creek Volunteer Rescue Squad, Camper Fire and Rescue Squad, and Pike County Technical Rescue. Doug, can you just come up here briefly and give me a quick summary of this? I'm familiar with it.
These affiliation agreements, with the rescue squad being affiliated with the court and emergency management, they get their workers' comp from the state workers' comp for rescue, and they can also apply for the annual grant for search and rescue equipment.
And the order of affiliation is required to do that.
Yes, it's required, it renews annually, so this is something we do every year.
All right, is there a motion to authorize the orders for affiliation for Shelby Creek Volunteer Rescue Squad, Camper Fire and Rescue, and Pike County Technical Rescue?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Booth. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. And before we go on, I'd like to recognize two special guests. We have Mr. Joe Patton, who is a longtime attorney practicing in Paintsville and Prestonsburg. We've litigated a lot of cases against each other many years ago. His son, Billy Joe, Joe's been up meeting with us on an economic development project today. Welcome. And Joe's uncle was late County Judge Tucker Daniel, who was a good friend of mine, and someone I went down and when he was sworn in as president of the County Judge Executive Association, I administered the oath of office when I was in the state senate. So, gentlemen, welcome. It's good to have you here. The next item is the approval of the policy for incentive funding for the Pike County Rescue Squads. Roy, would you briefly just come up to the podium and explain this, the issue we've had?
Judge, you had asked me to look into this. The prior fiscal court, someone thought there was an ordinance to give some funding to the rescue squads that are separate from the fire departments. And it actually, what we found was it was a court order. So instead of amending an ordinance, we're proposing that you just do it by court order. And basically, there would be three requirements, and one of them you all just went over with Doug Tackett. The two rescue squads that are getting this money have to do the annual affiliation agreement, which he just discussed with you. They also have to submit a quarterly report to the Pike County Emergency Management. The third requirement is that they comply with KRS 39F. 39F is a 3-page document, and as this court has learned, anytime you recite a statute, it's probably easier to put the statute in and the people can go look at it, because if they happen to change this law, then we would have to go back and change our court order. But if we just say that you have to comply with 39F, and there's a lot of things that they have to do to maintain their requirements. So basically what you would be doing here is giving these two rescue squads up to $8,000, or the money's there, they can come and ask for it. One of them has already gotten their money through an emergency grant, the court did. The other one, I believe, has it pending, or has turned it in, but we need this approval before the money can be issued.
Well, there's more. There's one other thing I want to point out. The Shelby Creek Rescue Squad was receiving a portion of money.
Correct.
Under the ISO ordinance, even though they're not a fire service, and the ISO ordinance doesn't apply to rescue squads. So what we want to make sure, in Pike County Technical Rescue, they do swift water rescue, they do a lot of different things, and we want to make sure that our two standalone rescue squads do have basic funding. And because of the pandemic, we talked about this when we did the budget last year. Mr. Stacy and Judge Hickman and myself, we put the budget together. We appropriated an extra $20,000 in a line item because we were concerned that the fire department or rescue squad may end up with some financial issues because of, not having bingo, not being able to have, charity events that are typically done to raise money. So I think the ordinance or the order looks appropriate, and this will clarify the fact that they're entitled to funding outside of the ISO ordinance and not under the ISO ordinance. So is there a motion to approve the policy for incentive funding for the Pike County Rescue Squad organizations?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any other questions or discussions? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Now, the item that's probably the most pressing, that is going to be something that we're going to have to talk about for a few minutes, is we have Mr. Tom Ramsey, our consulting engineer from Geosyntec Consultants. He's here to provide a status update and discuss some of the financial issues facing the expansion of the Pike County landfill. And Tom, welcome back. It's good to see you after a year of doing everything by phone and virtually. Before we begin, I think it's important to let people understand where we were just 2 years ago. About 2 years ago this time, we were trying to decide what the future of Pike County solid waste was. The program that was implemented by Governor Patton in terms of mandatory collection when he was judge executive, a program in terms of solid waste that was started by Judge Executive Wayne Rutherford, it's gone a long way to clean up the environment. Open dumps, illegal dumps, in every stream, every wide spot in the county used to be commonplace. Unfortunately, we still have those issues, but we have made a substantial leap forward in cleaning up Pike County. When we came in office, we discovered that the useful life on the current landfill was only about 4 or 4.5 years. Much shorter than what had been explained to us when we came in office by a previous engineering firm. I think that's a fair statement. Would you agree, Tom?
Yes, I would agree, Judge Jones.
And in fact, that there was a surveying mistake made previously that left about 20 feet of airspace on the previous phase, which is phase 4, which probably cost the county 2 or 3 years at least of useful life on the landfill. So it really put us in a predicament in terms of trying to get an expansion organized, to get it permitted, to get an application in before we ran out of space. So the court unfortunately had to raise the garbage rates. Since that time, we've put somewhere around 17 new solid waste vehicles on the road. We've purchased a new compactor that's state-of-the-art for about $800,000. It's operating on the landfill now. We have filed the administrative permit application as well as a preliminary application and the administrative application with the state. And you were in the process of correcting some issues that they had commented on, I believe.
Correct.
So I'm going to turn it over to you. Let you walk us through where we are. I think you do have one slide that you want to show us.
Sure. It's just an update on the schedule.
Okay.
So while that slide's going on, I can start off with just an update of the operations. Every time I come, I always go to the landfill and spend several hours with Larry Hensley, just discussing the operations and how are things going.
Tom, I'm going to interrupt you so the public knows Larry is our manager of the landfill.
Correct.
And just so the folks out there might not know who Larry is.
Yes. So when I came 2 years ago, for just to remind folks, the county was under about a half a dozen notices of violation related to operations. Most of those violations were related to leachate problems, lack of cover, lack of grass, other just sort of basic operational issues that were not being managed. Landfills are sort of like a battleship. You can't turn them around on a dime. It takes a long time when there's a problem to get it turned around. And so I've just appreciated coming out here on, this is the last time I was here was in October. We were doing field investigation related to the expansion, so it's been about 6 months. And the improvements continue on the landfill operation. I was out there with Larry today. Everything was covered properly. We see vegetation starting to get established from seeding that was done last winter. Larry had pointed out that there was more to be done this spring, but which was already ahead of schedule. The landfill grades were proper. They were uniform. They were shedding water off the landfill. And one of my general assessments when I look at landfill operations is when you've got a leachate problem, which is the water that comes out the bottom of the landfill that has to be managed like sewage from our households. When you've got a problem with leachate, you've got a problem with operations because the two of them are very closely related. We've had a pretty wet winter this year, and y'all have had some just horrible storms recently that caused a lot of damage. And in those cases, you would normally see, with some landfills, a lot of damage, a lot of severe erosion, exposed waste, leachate volumes that are through the roof, and that is not the case from what I've seen out there. It's only been about a month since those rain events. They've all been cleaned up. Things are looking good out there. When I asked Larry about where we are with regard to leachate management off the landfill, we're already about 1 million gallons below. My estimate on where we would be at the end of 2021 is about 1 million gallons below where it was in 2019, despite all the additional efforts that have gone on out there. That's a lot of trucking, it's a lot of labor, it's a lot of overtime that is being saved as a result that can be put into other things in the operation. So very pleased to see things continuing to look better. In fact, we discussed today, Larry had an inspection from the state just yesterday, and in those inspections, it's very common to get some sort of comment, not a notice of violation, but some sort of comment that's like, hey, can you work on this a little bit? And they had exactly one comment, which is very good for landfill operations. Typically, you would see 5 or 6 when the state comes out. And it's already, in fact, the one comment that they had, which was regarding a wet spot on the side slope of the landfill, had already been addressed by the time when I was out there today. So I just want to commend everyone's efforts at the landfill to really clean things up, and it's made a big difference. So you've got a good operation here.
Tom, when we first came in, it was not uncommon to, routinely get notices of violation in the mail, and Larry's done a remarkable job, and it's much appreciated. Larry, I think you're sitting back there. We appreciate it, and keep up the hard work. Tom, in terms of where we are now, we were sort of, I guess, behind the curve in terms of the fact that there was no money set aside for a landfill expansion, no money set aside for a new landfill. And when your first estimate was done, we had about 4.5 years left. That was about 2 years ago.
Correct.
So where are we right now in terms of airspace or useful life on the current landfill while we're working forward or moving forward with the permit application?
So we have just completed an annual survey that's required by the state in order to document where we are on the filling of the landfill. The latest numbers that came back from that show that there's about 3 years, a little bit more than 3 years of remaining life in the existing constructed landfill. That's due to a couple things. One is the improved operations out there, the reduction or the more logical use of cover as opposed to just spraying it everywhere and then not stripping it off. And then also the new compactor and the better operations are going on, or you're getting more waste in the same space than where you were several years ago. So we're consuming it at a less rapidly than was going on several years ago. That's good news, because the key, in my mind, with regard to the timing of our expansion in the next cell, we are trying very hard to work in order to make sure that the existing constructed landfill can stay in operation until we get the expansion permitted and the first cell of the new expansion constructed. So we've got, based on what's in phase 5 right now, about 3 years left. And I spent some time with Larry. He actually brought it up with me first, and it was something that I was planning on discussing with him anyway, which is, as you had mentioned before, Judge Jones, there's an area of phase 4 that was capped before it was fully filled, so there's a lot of disposal space left in that area that was never captured. We've discussed how we can go back and recover that disposal space with the current operations so that we can extend the remaining 3 years out another year, so that you've got 4 years between today and when we will exhaust the disposal space that has been constructed to date at the landfill.
One of the issues that we also had to address was the fact that there was an inadequate cash reserve or escrow for post-closure costs, that's still roughly about $3 million short if the landfill were to close. For $3 million, we can move the expansion substantially forward. It won't cover the cost of the first sale of the expansion, but it will go a long way to doing that and give us time to, I guess, catch up on the escrowed amount that should have been deposited over the years. One of the issues is, there is a proposed sixth phase under the current permit, which would only give us another year or two, but would cost somewhere around $1 million. Is that correct?
Or more than $1 million.
And we really don't want to have to spend that $1 million just to get another year or two, because that's money that we could put toward the new expansion that would be somewhere around 60 years
Correct.
of useful life once we get this thing permitted and get construction of the first sale started. One of the concerns I had was the initial cost of the first sale being around $5 million, but only giving us around 3 or 4 years. Would you explain why there's so much upfront cost? Because, I mean, if somebody looks at that, you're going to be spending more than $1 million a year in terms of the amount of space you're getting. But there's some infrastructure that has to be put in place, a berm that has to be constructed. Would you sort of explain that in case people have questions about that?
Sure. The concept, the broad concept on the way that we are going to get additional disposal space for the landfill. Right now, the landfill, it's in a hollow, and it's filling just sort of the bottom of the hollow. And what we are planning to do is build a very large berm at the bottom of the hollow. You can imagine it's almost like building a reservoir for a large pond, only instead of ponding water, that reservoir will then be filled with waste. So that is, and by building that large berm at the bottom of the hollow, we are then able to not just fill behind it, but also fill further up the hollow everywhere else. And so that is where we are going to get the 50 to 60 years of additional disposal space with the expansion. Obviously, the construction of that large berm is a fixed cost. We're building the berm initially because we need to start filling at the bottom of the hill. But once that berm is constructed, after several phases, that construction is done, and then you will just continue filling behind it at much less cost for future phases. So just the reality is there's a lot of upfront cost with the expansion in order to build the berm at the bottom. We've also got to fix the leachate system right now. When there is a surge of leachate that comes, that we're having to do a lot of overtime work over the weekends in order to pull that leachate out because you've got a gravity system. We're going to eliminate that and go into a pumping system. We're going to put in some new storage tanks for that leachate that are badly needed. There's additional stormwater ponds that have to be constructed, stormwater channels, et cetera. These are all permanent things that are going in as part of the expansion, but just have to go in up front. So that's the reason it's expensive. The initial cells are expensive, but then as you go further along, you will get more space for less money.
Now, some folks may be tuned into the program that maybe didn't get to see some of your earlier appearances here when we were talking about where we were going with solid waste. One of the issues is, somebody said, well, why didn't you just build a new landfill? Would you please just refresh our memory about what you were talking about in terms of cost of the expansion? It'll get us another 60 years versus having to construct and permit a new landfill.
Correct. Well, you can imagine if you wanted to construct and permit a new landfill, the first thing you got to do is find a new piece of property that would be several hundred acres. So you've got to purchase a new piece of property. Starting off is what we call a greenfield site, which is one that doesn't have a landfill. You have to do a huge amount of investigation associated with it. The fact that you've got an existing landfill, we already know a lot about it because it was originally permitted. So the expansion is a small fraction of the investigation that would have to be done for a brand new landfill. All of the infrastructure that you already have in place, you've already got a scale and scale house, administrative facilities, you've got a landfill gas collection system that burns off the gas that the landfill generates, you've got leachate tanks, you've got a stormwater pond, access roads, all of those things would all be brand new. Bringing in power, bringing in a new access road that may be off the main road for a long ways. Those are all millions of dollars that would be added on to a brand new site that, as compared to simply expanding your existing landfill. Also, the permitting process for it would be much longer. The folks at the State Department of Environmental Protection already know this site. They've already reviewed the investigation of it. They already have familiarity with it. So they're much more comfortable in doing their review because they have understanding, as opposed to a brand new site where they've never seen before and they've got to learn about it. So it would be a longer process, more expensive process, and just not really fiscally responsible, in my opinion.
In terms of the, where we are, if you look at the cost savings by doing the expansion versus a new landfill, also there's a time factor too. I would assume that it would be substantially longer to try to permit, design, and construct a new landfill, that we would be out of space before then. Is that before we ever got to the?
You would be very close to, yes, we'd be rolling the dice on that, and that's not something you want to do with solid waste.
So the other issue is now we're in the administrative phase of the permitting. There were a lot of minor technical corrections, decimal points, and the way they wanted things formatted in Frankfurt. How are we coming on getting the administrative permit comments corrected and back to the state?
Sure. There are, we had submitted the administrative application in January. We received comments back in March from them. As you'd mentioned, there were about 36 comments. The vast majority of them were very straightforward to address. They did have comments on the way an application is prepared in Kentucky. Is we prepare what we call attachments, which are discrete pieces, technical pieces of the application. They had comments on most of them, so we've got to make edits to a large number of them. Those edits are not difficult, but we do have to touch many of them. In addition, they did have two, what I would call, they're not hard to address, but they will take some effort. One of them, there were questions regarding potential endangered species, the Indiana bat. There is habitat on the site for that, so we've got to revise our plan. They were not found on the site, but there is habitat, so we've got to prepare a plan that describes restrictions on clearing in the site in order to not impact the habitat of the bat during its breeding season. The other thing that we have to do is, part of the application is we have to identify any drinking well within a 1 mile radius of the landfill itself. We were able to do that through public databases, but the state has asked us to actually contact each property owner and ask them if there is an undocumented well on their property that's being used for drinking water. So we have to follow up with that. We're planning on trying to get it. We're sending letters out here in the next week or two that folks will be receiving regarding asking that information. We're going to follow up with phone calls, and I expect that in the end we're going to have to come out and probably knock on a few doors as well.
When do you anticipate having that information?
We expect to have all of the responses back to the state within a month.
Okay. One of the reasons that I think the landfill is important, there's only 6 other landfills in eastern Kentucky. You've got one in London, one in Maysville, one in Moorhead, one in Mount Sterling, one in Ashland, and one in Greenup, I believe. And, you know, I've said all along that we can dispose of our trash here a lot cheaper than we can haul it to Ashland, pay someone else to take it, foot the haul bill, pay to construct a transfer station, and still have to come up with $3 million to shut down the existing landfill. That would be a big hit to a lot of people here. But ultimately, what I think we can do with Pike County Solid Waste is the current landfill is permitted to accept trash from several counties in eastern Kentucky. I can't remember if it's 13 total counties in Kentucky, Virginia, and West Virginia, and something along those lines.
That is correct.
And you know, if we have a landfill that's sizable enough that we can get trash from some of the other counties, and we've had that conversation, then that will generate money for the fiscal court. It will generate money that we could use for roads, for public infrastructure for our fire departments. But it also could help relieve some of the financial pressure that Pike County has had to foot the bill for solid waste expansion. It's also a competitive advantage for our local businesses, our hospital, our university, because, you know, no other community has a landfill like we have in southeastern Kentucky. So where are we? I think you do have a slide that you want to pull up on the timeline. Is that correct?
I do, and it's on the screen right now. They're just giving you a little bit of the schedule planning on where we have been and where we are. As you can see in the application process, it is a 4-part process to permit it, starting with revising the solid waste management plan. That was one of the other difficulties that we ran in when we first came in, was that despite having very limited amount of space left in the landfill, the solid waste management plan had been updated the year before we were involved, saying that no expansion was necessary. So we had that additional step that took about 6 months of time to complete that. We then, the first stage, technical stage, is a notice of intent to permit. That was completed at around September of last year. The administrative application includes a fairly lengthy field investigation, other work. So that, as I mentioned, went in January. We received our comments, so that's where we transitioned from green into blue, and that's where we are right now with about 1 month to respond to comments. I would expect that the state will take about 3 more months to approve the administrative application, and our desire would be with the new fiscal year to move as fast as we can into the technical application, which is the detailed design of the expansion. That will take a number of months of effort on my company's part to get that completed, have that submitted by the first quarter of next year, and then work through that whole application process. As you can see, the goal right now is to obtain our permit before the end of 2022, which would allow the first phase of construction in 2023, which I would is estimated to take about 12 months, which again goes back to the discussion I had earlier about the importance of getting that extra year of disposal space out of your existing constructed area. So I think in our discussions with Larry out there, it's very doable, it's realistic, it's reasonable. So from that end, I think that's good news that at this point, despite a couple of delays that got into our program, that we nonetheless can still realistically get this landfill permitted and the first cell constructed without having to spend extra money on phase 6.
So you anticipate that we'll go into the technical application, which or the design phase, in the fall?
Correct. Actually, I would like to start it even in August, with the July-August with the new fiscal year.
So the other question is, then we would go to construction sometime in 2022, second or third quarter?
Correct.
So now, we've already paid a substantial amount on the administrative application. What do you anticipate that the cost of the technical application would be?
I anticipate the total cost of the technical application is about $300,000 from our end.
And then the construction of the landfill, the first sale is about $5 million.
About $5 million, yes, roughly. Again, these are initial estimates. The other thing that we've wanted to talk about, Judge Jones, was that another desire is to potentially move our entrance road to the bottom of the site instead of going up Ford Mountain Road where the current entrance is, to move it back down to the bottom. That will allow us to install a 60-foot scale, which is needed for tractor trailers to get the adjoining counties to come to the site. They're not able, the current scale is too short. It's very difficult to get in and out with a tractor trailer. I think you'll find the overall operation will be improved substantially. So there will be some additional road construction on top of that $5 million.
One of the issues from the current access on Ford Mountain is the fact that mud is perpetually tracked out on the road. And it would be, we just spent about $600,000 or so redoing Ford Mountain, and that's a project that was very important to Commissioner Robertson. New guardrail, so forth. And, it would be a substantial improvement in terms of safety to be able to move that access road out to the state highway as opposed to being on Fort Mountain. I think it would give us a better opportunity to do some things to control dust and mud and so forth. So the one issue is that we're going to have to make sure, once we get into the technical application, is we're probably going to need to set a meeting up with our financial advisor, R.J. Palmer, to discuss the timeline when we're going to be needing to look at a bond issue to cover the expansion cost. We don't want to get down to the point where, we're ready to start construction and then have a delay with regard to the bonding, because before the end of this term is up, it's my goal to have the expansion started, because if not, whether I'm judged in another term or not, in the next term of the Pike County Fiscal Court, we're going to be out of space at some point in that term.
Correct.
And we've made too much progress on this issue. And, and I'll remind you, Tom, that, we had to go get a deed to the mineral and surface areas from the RH group. It's just one of the requirements that held us up for 2 or 3 months. And the RH group, they were very, very generous to work with us. They were very helpful, and to make sure that this project wasn't delayed any longer than necessary. So we are going to need, you just to make sure you tell us when we really need to start working on the funding, because we don't want to have any delays or hiccups on that. So, when you have anything for Mr. Ramsey?
Judge Jones, I do have one other request for the fiscal court this evening, and that's with regard to the response to the comments with the administrative application that we got. There were several things in there that were in addition to the funding that you had given us thus far to prepare the administrative application. We prepared a budget request, or put together a budget that we believe is reasonable for that, to address those comments, about $36,000. So we would need additional funding to complete that.
Well, that was the part of the conversation I didn't want to have tonight.
I apologize for that.
But Tom, we understand that there's a cost to doing this, and ignoring a financial obligation doesn't fix anything. And
Right.
the financial obligation that the county has to the solid waste system to keep it running, keep it operational, and to keep the landfill viable, is something that, this court has taken head on. It wasn't popular. It wasn't something that, 4 new members of the fiscal court wanted to come in and have to address. But I think I said we weren't going to kick the can down the road, and we were going to address the problems as they came up. And I can't speak, highly enough about those gentlemen, because they took a hard vote. It wasn't popular to raise solid waste rates in the middle of, a downturn in the coal economy. But I will make the case any place, any time, to any person, that but for the hard decisions that the members of this court have made, there would not be a Pike County solid waste system in operation right now. You wouldn't have had the equipment to pick it up. The state may have already shut the landfill down because of the environmental violations. And, we even had the transfer station at Robinson Creek where we had people dumping garbage out on the ground. I removed the dumpsters. That wasn't politically popular, but guess what? People did it, and we ended up getting cited for it. I mean, there are legal and technical requirements that we have to comply with. And, those were ignored, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. And we're trying to fix those, and we appreciate your help in doing that. Do you have any other suggestions for us in terms of what we need to be doing to make sure that the landfill expansion stays on track? I know that you talk to Judge Hickman very frequently. That this has been something that the court is committed to making sure happens under this term. So, what other recommendations or suggestions do you have?
I think we're moving as fast as we can at this point, and we have had the full commitment of the fiscal court and all of the staff of the court to move things forward as fast as possible. With each stage of the application, it goes in, to the state for their review. There are always comments that come back with every piece. Depending on what those comments are, sometimes we may need some more help from the county itself in helping to address those, but we have thankfully not had to be at that point right now. If you remember, Judge Jones, back when we were doing the solid waste management plan, there were a few delays in Frankfurt, and we just had to have a meeting down there, and that kind of opened the door and got moving. So there's the potential that we would need to do that again, but thankfully thus far, we have not had that issue.
Tom, I don't see, I can't speak for the other gentleman, I don't see if there's a problem also on the current invoice, but do you have the invoice with you or the estimate for?
I do not, so we will forward that to you shortly. I guess this would be more for information than action at this point.
So if you can get that to us before the next fiscal court meeting, and it appears to be everything is in order, everything appears to be appropriate, I would see no problem, at least from my perspective, in going ahead and approving that in 2 weeks at the next court meeting.
Okay.
That's sort of where we are.
Very good.
Any comments on that? I think before we can approve that, we do need to have something in writing.
I understand, and that's completely reasonable. We will have that to you shortly.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I'd just like to say it. The landfill looks really well. I mean, the road is in best shape it's been in I could ever remember. Grass is growing good on it, like Tom said, really good. And I think when we move the scale house to the foot of the hill, that'll be great too, because that'll give them water inside their office and stuff down there, which they don't have now, and that'll give us ways, if we have to, of washing the trucks off when they leave the scales and enter the main roads.
I agree. One of the big advantages on moving the scale over to the other side is it allows a long stretch of road between the scale and the public highway that'll be paved, that'll allow the trucks to get the dirt off their tires before they get on the public right of way.
You don't have that now, so that'd be a great improvement to it.
Excellent suggestion. Thank you. Okay. All right, so if there's nothing else, Tom, we'll move on to the next agenda item. If you get that invoice to us or the estimate, we'll take action on it at the next court meeting. Okay. Next item is awarding of bids. I want to take care of one matter. Darren, can you come on up for just a second, please? Rick, would you have a seat up here real quick? On Saturday, we have the county surplus auction taking place. Rick, I apologize for keeping you waiting. Darren, we had, Rick is Big Creek Fire Department's chief, and he reached out to the members of the court a couple weeks ago, wanting to know if we had any surplus vehicles that might be able to be used to pull a rescue trailer. And Rick went up to the county maintenance garage, identified a F-250 green one that's got about 300,000 miles on it. Is that correct, Darren?
Yes, it has actually 229,000 on it.
229,000. And there's some problems with the truck. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It actually has manifold issues. It's one of those things we'll have to pull the cab off of it, the whole body, to repair some turbo hoses. We spent about $30,000 on it. It's a 2010. I was doing the numbers on it today, and we've spent about $30,000 on the truck since we've had it. It's one of those I think would be good to get rid of. Let him have that, because it would be, for what we do with it, plowing roads and the things that we use it for, it would be better suited, I think, for what Rick needs.
Yeah, we'd have very limited use. I mean, you're talking a few times a year rather than everyday service.
And Fabian, it was your decision to take it out of service. Is that correct, to the road department?
It was, but I
Okay. So it will be my motion to declare this, 2010 F-250 green one that we had agreed to put into the surplus auction. We declare it as surplus.
Yes.
And further, my motion to clarify that it's being declared surplus because of the maintenance issues with it, and that it be donated to the Big Creek Volunteer Fire Department to be used as a vehicle to help pull their rescue trailer. If there would be a second to that motion.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Booth. Frankie, in terms of declaring surplus, is that all we need is the order? Is that all we need is the order of the court? Okay. So we have a motion, a second, motion by myself, second by Commissioner Booth. Is there any other question or discussion?
Judge, I know that Feds Creek's had a rough time over at their fire department. And if we got anything up there, they might could use, I mean, when we was at Lick Creek late that Sunday night, they had a old Suburban that, it was rough, you know.
Judge, there is another one up there that was like another one I looked at. It's already out to be sold. It's I think it's an 07 diesel F-250 that's pretty decent.
Darren, if any other departments want to come in, the problem is we don't have another court meeting. We could always pull it out and deal with it that way. But the other pickup trucks, I assume, from what I understand, are in pretty bad shape. Is that true, Darren?
Yes, I'm not sure.
I shouldn't say that we're going to auction them off. They're in great shape. It's a great
yeah,
deal.
let's
We got merchandise.
Judge Hickman, can we take something out of the auction now that is already on the list that Dustin has record
If
of?
it's already been advertised, I don't think you can.
I think you can.
I think it's been advertised,
It has.
it's gonna be too late.
Yes,
Yeah, it's already been advertised.
yes, it has.
It's already advertised.
So if it doesn't sell, then we can reevaluate it.
But we can be on the lookout, because I know you guys are gonna do some things this year for
Right.
the road department, and there would be some more trucks probably available
Right.
doing that.
Well, you know, we put Mr. Little in a pretty tough spot the last couple, the first year we were in office, because we had to address all these solid waste problems, because, garbage is something, you have to pick it up every day somewhere. But we've spent, just so the public will understand this, in the last year, we spent almost 1.8 million on new equipment for the road department. Excavators, pickup trucks, salters, snow plows, new Mack trucks for each road lot, a paver, a roller, another large excavator. So, I mean, we're making investments. It doesn't do you any good to have employees if they're using picks and shovels. And they were getting to the point where they didn't have equipment. And I think that's a fair statement, Darren.
It is.
They didn't have equipment that they could reliably work on these roads. And, when we had the road fall into the river over at the Woodman Summer Road, I mean, our road department had that road completely reconstructed, a temporary access road built within 2 days, and a new road was put back in there in less than a week. I mean, that's really remarkable. We've got some very talented people, some very hardworking people in that road department, and it's unfair that they don't have equipment to work with. And we've still got some more work to do on that this fiscal year and next. Fortunately, we've got most of our solid waste needs met until next fiscal year. We'll have to buy a couple more vehicles next year for them. There's some other, if you go in Judge Hickman's office, there's a massive list of capital needs that we have. If we have something that's declared surplus that we can, give to our volunteer fire department agency or rescue squad, we'll be happy to try to work with them. But most of the stuff that we have, Rick, is just absolutely worn out. So anybody that's interested in a gasoline-powered Dodge garbage truck, we would invite them to come out to we've got a great deal on those that are coming up. So, but we do have some. We're trying to make sure that we're being lean and efficient, and that's why we're having surplus options. So, Rick, thank you very much for coming.
Thank
Good
you,
seeing
sir. On a personal note, I just want to thank this court and this new court system that we're using now. And I'm so impressed with everything. This is just me as a taxpayer and a Pike County citizen. I want to thank you all what y'all have done with this garbage problem that we were facing. Because as you've already stated, a few more years we would have been in trouble. Because I know people that live in areas where they're paying $80 and $100 a month for garbage bills. So, y'all have done a terrific job, and thank you for everything you do for the departments and what you're doing every day. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay, we need to take a roll call on that one. Thank you, Lisa. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. Mr. Fannin, anything, sir, on bids? All right, we have the Pike County Road Supervisors report, Mr. Little. We have some good news. I'm going to be the one to spring it because I get the I get the bad parts of the job, I get the good parts. But the good part of the job is the blacktop plant's open back up Monday, and they're opening a week early because the Pike County Road Department's getting ready to start paving again. And the fiscal court has a lot of paving to do this fiscal year, but we're planning on doing a whole lot of paving next year. So,
Hey, Judge, you tell them after June.
what's that?
After June.
Well, we have we've got a whole lot of paving to do in the next fiscal year, that will start July 1. And, we've got to make an investment in our roads, our transportation system. So first thing I want to do is we have the Pike County Road Department completed work orders and the scheduled work list. Have the members of the court had an opportunity to see that? Again, this will be posted on the Pike TV Facebook page. It will be posted on their YouTube page as well, that the public can look and see what's been done and what's scheduled to be done. We do recognize, Mr. Little, that there are a lot of people calling in wanting potholes patched, and I've explained to some folks that we can't patch potholes till the blacktop plant opens back up. That will be one of the priorities that we'll get started on. We do have some significant issues that we have to address with bridges. And before we act on this, I just want to say we were contacted by a gentleman up on Elkhorn Creek about a bridge that we were already aware of, that we had initially sought emergency funding for, only to find out the bridge was not in the Pike County road system.
I was just going to say, I mean, if you can remember the little film there that I showed on all the bridges, that bridge that you're talking about was actually in that bridge. I mean, it had needed some attention then, and then the center pier. But in the meantime, in between the center pier and this, that's when I found out that, it is not in the system, and we cannot get any funding at all for anything that is not in the state system.
Well, Mr. Kyle Sweeney contacted me, and I told him we would look into this. The county may have done some work on that bridge at one time. It would not have been done, properly, but the bridge is not in the road system, and the cost is somewhere probably around $300,000 to $400,000 to replace this bridge, and there's only 2 homes served by it. And the question is, how can the county justify taking in a bridge to serve 2 homes? It's going to cost $400,000 to fix. It may be that if it only needed a center pier, that it would be proper to take it in. But that's a huge problem for the county. We have some issues like that where really expensive issues that only serve 2 or 3 or 4 homes, that the county simply can't afford to undertake the cost. But we're not going to give up on it. We're going to look and see what our options are. If you could look at it and see if a center pier repair would alleviate the problem, but it would not be wise or financially prudent to take a bridge into the system that you're going to have to immediately spend $400,000 on it when there's 2 homes impacted.
Yeah, and this is not the time to talk or debate it, but that bridge had issues before that center pier. If you remember, it was the one that had the giant swag in it, and you had even mentioned on there that it looked like there was failure in the metal, and that's what had happened. So just by putting a center pier under there will not fix that bridge. I mean, it still would have to have the beams, the deck taken off. You'd have to have two head walls and a center pier underneath that. So it would be a pricey project.
What do you think it would cost, Fabian?
Well, honestly, I'm basing this on the Penny Street Bridge. The Penny Street Bridge is 105 feet long. This bridge has to be somewhere around there. And the Penny Street Bridge, we got that listed at $350,000, a little bit over $350,000 to complete that bridge.
Where are we in terms of the Penny Street Bridge, letting that bridge? Putting it out for bid.
Well, we're still just a little ways out. I'm meeting with some in the morning at 8:30. So we're still just a little ways out, but we are getting closer.
I think that bridge is gonna have to wait till at least the rainy season's over with, because we take it out.
Which bridge?
the Penny Street Bridge.
Oh, no, well, that's what we've said all the time. This is a July,
Right.
August, drought part of the time to build that bridge. But what we're talking about or what the judge is talking about, I'm sorry, would be, maybe finding a contractor or someone
Right.
to build that bridge, which would help us out greatly, because not only with all the blacktop that we have to lay, but we still have several other bridges that we already have funding for that have to be built this year. So, you know, if we
The
can get
bridges that we
one.
obtained emergency funding for,
Exactly.
plus the discretionary money for Penny Street. I mean,
80/20, you know, we got 2 on 80/20.
80/20, the emergency bridges, and the discretionary money for the Penny Street Bridge.
Yeah.
The problem is the county simply doesn't have the manpower to do the amount of paving, pothole patching, regular maintenance, weed cutting, and some of these bridges are going to be pretty substantial projects.
They are.
So the Penny Street Bridge is my desire, or I guess you would say, to put it out for a bid to see if anybody would bid it, and a bid would come in somewhere near what we've got to do it. And then that would take it off of the plate of the road department, and they could go on and start some of these other bridges, because that Penny Street Bridge is going to be a fairly substantial.
Yeah, if we done that bridge, honestly, it would probably hold us up, I would say, at least a month, maybe a month and a half of what it would take us to complete that bridge. So, yeah, you know, if I can have that crew of men somewhere else for that month, 2 months, it would really help me.
I think somebody told me they've been waiting on a bridge there for about 10 years now.
But I have to say one thing
Great
for the old bridge. Even though we all know it needs to be replaced, no one is arguing against that. Now, she held up. You can say what you wanted. It was covered in water in this flood, in this last flood, and if you saw the trash and debris that's behind it right now, you would recognize how much pressure that bridge was taking, and she stood there, so.
Let's go ahead. Is there a motion to approve the Pike County Commissioners' recommended road maintenance list for this period?
Motion.
A motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Commissioner Tackett.
Judge, I spoke with Mr. Bartley. It's his grandson, Mr. Sweeney is, and his wife. And he kind of, and like I told him, I said, we got to find out where this, who owns this before we can even think about what we can do on the Elkhorn Creek Bridge.
Is that the other resident over there?
Well, he lives, he lives down the next bridge down. There's his grandson is was it Kyle Sweeney?
Kyle Sweeney.
And he said that he couldn't, he thought that was in the county road system. And I said, well, we can't find nothing showing where it is ever been in the county road system.
But it goes back to the problem that
Right.
I'm going to talk to Fabian about here in just a second. The road records are not very good. They've not been kept right. I mean, they're inaccurate. There's roads that have been maintained that aren't in the system. There's roads that are in the system that probably haven't been maintained properly.
There are. We found some of those.
There's roads that we show as having, half a mile, and we've paved a mile and a quarter or something. I mean, it's just, they're a mess. And our records don't match the state records, which don't match the ad district records. And I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. Any other questions, additions, comments, anything that needs to be done on this? We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson, second by Commissioner Tackett. See no other question or discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. So, Fabian, where are we in terms of this corrected list of the roads that we've had all of our road foremen driving to make sure they're correct?
I kind of have this in 3 phases, okay? We had the one that the ad just wanted our correct mileage for the roads that they have. All right. Well, in doing that, and we have that section done. We have that portion done of the roads that the ad has for us. We have that corrected mileage. But then we started trying to correct these roads that the county had been working but was not ever listed with the State Department.
And then you have the issue of some of these roads that need to be taken out. Like maybe at one time, the county was servicing 4 homes on a hollow. But then over time, one person bought out all that property. Well, now that road becomes illegal for us to work because it doesn't meet the standards that the state sets, that you have to have so many property owners, so many residents there. And so we're trying to take those out. And that's where it's getting a little lengthy, because on those I have to really rely on my foreman, because they were the ones that's been here so long in each one of these areas, and they know these roads that they have worked for X amount of years and that it should be put in. So I'm gonna have to get them to come in and sit down with my secretary and myself, and we're going over all these. But that's where we're at right now on that. We do have the first phase done. We're just working on the next 2 now.
The other issue is, we need to make sure we contact Mountain Enterprises. We're gonna start paving Monday, see if they can do the tacking on these roads
Yes, sir.
until Judge Hickman is gonna look at a tack truck next week. We think we could save enough money by doing it internally over the next 2.5 years. It will pay for itself. But we've got to find one. And he's, I think, going to go to North Carolina and look at one. Is it next week? So we have fiscal court training next week. The 4 of us do. You'll be paving. He's going to go look at that with Mr. Fannin. So that's something we need to get done. Something else I was going to mention to you. Maybe he may be going by himself next week. So the other question is, we need to make sure that the road foreman, you can't be everywhere, but I'm not real happy with one of the road foremen. If there's paving to be done before 1 ounce of blacktop is put down on a road, I want to make sure there's no drains that are going to have to be replaced on that.
And that's true. I mean, and that's what we have stressed, or that's what I've stressed. I mean, if we're going to spend that much money to blacktop a road, then that road should not have to be touched within 5 years, unless barring a storm or something like that that you can't foresee. But I mean, if it's something you can see as far as changing drains, pulling ditch lines, all that work needs to be done before that blacktop's laid, because you're making an investment in that road and you don't want to have to go back within a year and cut it up.
I thought we always agreed with that before.
We did.
We have one potentially, I'm not going to point fingers, but there was one situation where there's a couple of drains that may have to be replaced on a road that was paved. If that's the case, then I'm going to take action on it, and I will be coming to the court to address that.
I thought we'd always agreed, you know, they need to go to the holler, pull all ditches, put drains in wherever needed before we even put any blacktop
Well,
down.
that's what the situation is supposed to be, and I just want to convey the message to the road foreman that before any paving is done, that it's their responsibility on a road that's going to be paved, that the ditches are pulled, drains are jetted if necessary, and drains are replaced if necessary. So if you could make sure they understand that, I would greatly appreciate it.
I will.
All right, anything else along the lines for Mr. Little?
I'm pretty happy with it.
Fabian, the road department's got a lot of work done here recently, and we appreciate that.
And we have a lot of work to do, but we do have a good crew. I mean, we also do, and we're up for the task. But we have a really busy summer, which that's a good thing for the people.
Well,
I mean, if they can see us out and see us working this summer, they'll know. I mean, we're really moving forward.
And we're not stopped cleaning up. I mean, we're still going at it.
Yeah, I mean, even amongst all this stuff that we're doing, trying to get these roads ready for blacktop, we're actually still doing flood work.
Well, I'm going to say this. The work that the road department's done, I've seen it all over the county. We've had a lot of damage. The road department's done an excellent job. It's not like the state where you've got day shift, night shift, where you can bring crews out after one after the other. These guys work like 6 weeks in a row in February and March because of the weather. And but I'm also would make a motion that the fiscal court hire up to 10 temporary workers in the road department at the appropriate classifications. If you're, weed mower, or if you're a heavy equipment operator, that they be temporary workers preferably retired county or state highway department employees that have experience that we could assign to work on weed eating, that could work and help build the bridges and do the paving.
Yes.
And, you know, we've got a lot of highway construction employees that are laid off right now because of the lack of state funding for road projects. And that we advertise this in the newspaper, that they would be temporary with no permanent benefits. But that if there were, you know, but if we did have vacancies in the road department, that they would be subject to rehire. You know, they would be, we could keep a list of them if, you know, something came open, that they would be given a preference to do that. But we need to give you the manpower, because you can't pave, you know, you can't do all the paving and tacking and getting the prep work done on the roads. You can't cut the weeds, patch the potholes, pull the ditches, and build a whole bunch of bridges with, you know, with 32, how many total? 34 employees?
34.
34 employees. It just can't be done. So we've looked at the fiscal cost. We can support that. Of course, you're not going to be paying health insurance. You're not going to be paying other fringe benefits. But the temporaries are entitled to the CERS contribution. We do have to pay that. But they will be limited to 25 weeks of work, because we have to keep them under that threshold number. And Mr. Maynard's got that number. Mr. Stacy's aware of it. It would be my motion that we hire up to 10 temporary employees in the Pike County Road Department for up to 25 weeks each to get us through the summer road maintenance work and paving and bridge replacement that we have to do.
Yeah, I'd like to just tell everybody to come on out, sign up, we'll have fun.
Would there be a second to my motion?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Tackett. Any other question or discussion?
I thought we might need 12.
Well, let's start with 10.
I like 12.
Well, let's start with 10.
You know how I am, Judge. I like to aggravate you.
I know you do. You do a very good job of that.
You know what you called me a couple weeks ago?
I've called you a lot of things, but we can't discuss
No,
it.
you too. You know what? but
Mr. Tackett most of the time.
Judge Jones.
Dozens better than 10, ain't Fabian?
Always.
Well, we've got the numbers for 10. If we need more and we can't get the work done, then we'll entertain that. But my financial numbers that we've put together, at the recommendation of my brain trust to my left, we're going to do 10 for now. That's the motion. We do have a second.
That
And
sounds.
before we have somebody withdraw their second, I'm going to call the roll. Madam Clerk, call it now, please.
Commissioner Robertson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett,
Yes.
Commissioner Booth,
Yes.
Judge Jones.
Yes. This, you know, we think this is a fiscally responsible thing to do, Fabian, to give you the ability to get this work done, so.
Well, and you know, I know that the guys that work for road department will take everything that you guys are doing, and they really take this to heart, and they respect everything that you got, that this court has done. I've had several of them tell me, you know, that they're working with better equipment. They like the way that this is headed, so it's not gone unnoticed.
Well, it took me a while to win Darren back there over. It only took me a couple years.
Yeah, but once you got him, you've got him.
So, anyway, once they figured out I wasn't going to shut down county government with all the rumors that they heard. So,
Exactly.
I do think what we're doing is a better way to give people, you know, safe equipment to work with.
It is.
The 3 new excavators we did buy, we've put brush guards or pedal guards on them. They've got thumbs on them. So we're trying to make sure employees have the safest equipment they can work with too. So I appreciate your hard work. We've got a lot more things to talk about for the road department, good things. I'll have a proposal for the court probably in April or May once we have an idea of where we are financially. I don't want to spend any more money right now on equipment until we get closer to the end of the year. And as the public heard, we're going to have to be out of pocket a lot of money to get this landfill expansion done. But the cost of not getting it done is going to be by far more painful than the investment in making sure it happens. going forward, and I've said this, and I'll say it again, the pension costs are concerning. And Judge Hickman will tell you there's not a day that goes by that I don't raise the issue about what pension costs, the risk that pension costs play for county government needs to be understood. Whether I run again or I'm never county judge after this term, whoever comes into this position or these positions here need to understand that over the next 5 or 6 years, the pension contribution rates are projected to nearly double. This year, the next fiscal year, the pension rate is for every dollar payroll, we're going to be paying 26.95 cents to the pension system. Within 6 years, that goes up to 47.5 cents. And within 9 years, it's projected to be up to almost 60 cents. So, in 6 years, if your pension costs go from, where we at, about 2.2 million a year right now, Frankie, in pension costs, a little bit less than that?
Roughly.
So if your pension costs go from, 2.2 million to 4 million, the money that we are spending on equipment and blacktop and making sure that our employees can get the work done, that money's going to be going to pensions. And it is a huge problem, and I think the state is going to have to address it. I think the problem has been made worse by politicians that want to paint the situation as more bleak than it is. It didn't get in this condition overnight. It's not going to get out of this condition overnight, but if this continues, there's going to be a lot of county governments in Kentucky that will not be able to operate. And I don't think Frankie's my, the numbers guy for the fiscal court. I don't think that's an exaggeration, Frankie.
No, a lot of these smaller counties aren't going to be able to take that impact at all, even in the next year or two.
So our pension costs are going to go up, what, 200,000+ this year from last year?
3%.
So, a 3% hit on your pension cost is a pretty substantial amount.
It's going to break every county in the state
And
if they don't do something about it.
Well, that's why we have to be very careful. And I told Darren this week. You have to have a balance. You have to have a balance on what the optimal number of employees that you can support long term and still provide the equipment that our employees need to work with. So that's not an easy thing to do, sitting in this chair, or these chairs up here. So anyway, Fabian, thank you very much. And we're going to move on to treasurer's business. Mr. Stacy, you have the floor, sir.
First thing is to acknowledge receipt of the treasurer's monthly financial statement for March 2021.
Is there a motion to acknowledge receipt of the treasurer's monthly financial statement for ending March 31st, 2021?
Motion.
A motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second? Second. A second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
Authorize a check to the Kentucky Department of Local Government in the amount of $102,794.62. That's the total balance in the LGDF recaptured fund at the end of March. Once that account hits $100,000, we're required to remit that funds back to our single county coal severance account. So it would be to authorize a check for the total available balance to turn it back over to Pike County's LGDF single county account at DLG.
This is something we had to do 2 years ago because the state changed the requirements on it. And the current administration last year caught this.
Right.
All right, is there a motion to authorize a check to the Kentucky Department of Local Government in the amount of $102,794.62 to turn over funds in the LGEDF recapture account to put into our single county account? We don't lose this money. It's just going to be sitting in a different bank account until we draw it down. So is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tackett. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes.
Last thing I have would be to authorize an ACH payment to Deluxe Business Forums to order deposit books for the consolidated and the solid waste bank accounts at Community Trust Bank. It would be a case of deposit books per account, and the last time I think that we ordered them, they were about like $1,000.
Is there a motion to authorize an ACH payment to Deluxe Business Forms to order deposit books for the consolidated solid waste accounts through Community Trust Bank?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Booth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robertson. Any other question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Thank you, sir. Any other need for executive session? Mr. Little? Okay. Okay. Mr. King, Pike County Attorney, would you please instruct the public and the court on the relevant provisions of Kentucky open meeting law as it pertains to entry into executive session? Personnel, and we might want to discuss that pending lawsuit that we have.
It'd be 61810 subsection C and F to discuss pending litigation and specific personnel matters.
Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Robertson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tackett. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett? Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, we are in recess for executive session and will return at the call of the chair. Is there a motion to adjourn from executive session?
Motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Tackett. We have a second by
Second.
Commissioner Robertson. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. It is my motion to do the following personnel actions. Approval to hire Austin Termeyer as a loader at solid waste lot 1 at a 2H rate of pay effective 3/18/21. Approval to move Trevor White to a solid waste driver at solid waste lot 1 at a 3H rate of pay effective 3/29/21. Approval to move Keith James from road lot 4 to road lot 3 in the same position and rate of pay. Approval to hire Michael Ward as a Packer driver, solid waste lot 1 at a 3H rate of pay effective 3/29/21. To approve hiring Philip Adams as a Packer driver, solid waste lot 1 at a 3H rate of pay effective 3/29/21. And approve to lay off Janet Potter, Whitney Hall, effective April 1st, 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Booth. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes. Pike County Department Supervisors comments. Mr. Tackett, anything? Mr. Fan and Mr. Spears, Mr. Williamson, Ms. Goff, Ms. Sykes, anything? Larry, anything, sir, from landfill? Diane, anything? I know Pam's got some good news for us. Finance, anything good? All right, well, thank you. Deputy Judge Hickman, anything, sir? Mr. Down, anything, sir?
No, Judge.
I assume you and Mr. Morley are working on my solid waste ordinance?
It's a dream, Judge.
Roy, you maybe said the most honest thing to me that since I've been judge. I appreciate that. I appreciate the frank honesty.
We are working on it, Judge.
All right. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Maybe in my second term, I'll get it if I run again. Maybe.
Judge, we're making progress.
Okay. Well, you know, I might be on Social Security at this rate, so just
The good thing is I'll be there for you. Just fine. Don't worry too much. I'll tell you about it.
I appreciate that, Colonel. Bad when he pulls rank on you, right? All right, Mr. Keene, anything, sir? He's your employee, not mine.
I'll speak with him about it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm sure that was straightforward too. Everybody just abuses the judge up here, Commissioner Robertson especially. All right, Commissioner Robertson, we're going to start with you. Commissioner's comments. Commissioner Tackett, we're going to start with you. Well, they're over here having a conversation about something
He's
else.
back now, Judge. Go ahead.
I'm good, Judge. I don't have anything to say.
After abusing me for a week over this trail stuff, appreciate that. Commissioner Tackett?
I want the people of Pike County and District 2 to just understand, and was it 4? I don't know, where's Fabian? In 4 weeks, we've had 2 floods. Is that about what it was?
Yes.
Maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks apart.
Yeah.
And we're working on every bit of it. I mean, it just takes time. I understand people. Just be patient with us. We'll be there. You know, we're just trying to get people in and out of their hollows. We understand their drain pipes. There's creeks need dipped out. There's potholes. Just it's been a tough 4 weeks. It reminds me of I guess when I was young, I'd get on a wild horse and it'd waller me on the ground, and I just have to knock the dust off of me and climb back on, you know. But that's kind of what it's felt like the last 3 or 4 weeks. It has been tough. We've got a lot of progress going in the trail system. It's moving very quick, a whole lot quicker than what we kindly thought it was. About right, Judge Hickman? And, you know, I just want to thank our employees. I mean, with these guys been out here like they have and in this courthouse, and, you know, I don't want to leave nobody out, solid waste to the animal shelter I just appreciate what you do. I mean, people don't understand what kind of jobs, what you all have to deal with day in and day out, and I want to thank you all for that. Other than that, that's about it, Judge.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Booth, anything?
Judge, I just like to thank our employees as always. They do a good job, and I just like to say it felt really good to, a year later, to get to walk in for Easter Sunday service. That was really good this Sunday past. So that's about all I've got tonight, Judge.
All right. I have nothing else. Thank you. Commissioner Booth, would you please say the benediction for us?
Dear Heavenly Father, as we come before you tonight, dear Lord, Lord, we just want to thank you, Lord, for all those that was able to be here tonight, dear Heavenly Father, for this meeting, dear Heavenly Father, that hopefully, Lord, that we've made all the right decisions for this county, dear Heavenly Father, to move it forward, dear Lord. Watch all of us as we go to our homes tonight, dear Heavenly Father. In Jesus' name we pray, and amen.
Madam Clerk,
Hey, Judge, I got one more thing to say. On this, and I'm sorry about that. On this, on the trails, if anybody needs to get a hold of us, contact Sherry at 606-432-6308. Thank you.
thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adjourn? We have a motion by Commissioner Robertson. I will make a second to that motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Tackett?
Yes.
Commissioner Booth?
Yes.
Judge Jones?
Yes, we are adjourned.